Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. This is episode number 194, the Armel Tauri episode, as the 22-year-old small forward out of France became the first Laker ever to wear number 94 after playing just 9 games with the franchise last season. Now, this weekend, we've got some fun matchups, Bruce, that we want to just kind of highlight for our listeners out there. And these are the ones that we're looking forward to. We circled a couple here and figured that we would give our listeners the inside scoop on who we'll be paying attention to this upcoming weekend. And FYI to everyone out there, Friday isn't just Halloween night, but it also kicks off the NBA Cup group play. It's our first games for the NBA Cup group play that, of course, will decide the seeding for the actual tournament. So keep an eye on that. And we're going to start out with Friday night game, Bruce, and that is the New York Knicks visiting the Chicago Bulls.
You know, when we did our over-under predictions a few weeks ago on 48 Minutes, all three of us, yourself, myself, and World B, all felt that Las Vegas was underestimating the Bulls with an over-under of 33.5 wins. We all took the over, and after 3 games, the Bulls are 3-0 with wins over Detroit and Orlando and, 2 strong Eastern Conference teams. The Bulls have started out with good perimeter defense, especially guarding the three-point line, but their rebounding, which was shaky last season, has been a bit better with Nick Vucevic grabbing 11 and Josh Giddey 6.5, but their forwards are just not doing it on the boards. All of their forwards are under 5 rebounds a game, Now, the Knicks and Bulls actually are playing a home-and-home this weekend, Friday in Chicago, Sunday in New York. So the Knicks have been rebounding really well. But again, one of their games was against Boston. So their numbers may be a bit skewed. But if the Bulls can take one of those 2 games and play well in the other, it might be a sign that they might be ready to graduate from their yearly play-in position and become a real live playoff team.
Yeah, and so far they seem to be one out east with the performances they're stringing together here. And I'm glad that you mentioned that they're playing a home and home matchup with the Knicks this upcoming weekend, and that's why I wanted to highlight this first one on Friday night, because this one's in Chicago. They got to take care of business on their home court to kind of get things rolling against the Knicks, and then carry that momentum into Sunday's matchup at Madison Square Garden. But this is Halloween night. Jalen Brunson, who's, of course, the star guard for the Knicks, this is a homecoming for him because Brunson grew up in the Chicago area. And let's face it, the Bulls are red hot. So it's going to be a tough task for Mike Brown and his Knicks to walk into Chicago right now with how things are rolling for Billy Donovan and his team. This one should be fun. But, they've, like you mentioned, that the Bulls have already knocked teams like the Pistons in their home opener. They knocked them off. And they even took care of the Magic on the road in Orlando this past weekend. So, they're beating some good teams, and there's going to be no short of confidence that they can't take off the New York Knicks too. So this one should be a very fun one and another potential impressive weekend upset this weekend for the Chicago Bulls. Now, next up, we've got the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Detroit Pistons. This is on Saturday, but this one's not in Detroit or Dallas. It's actually in Mexico City, which I thought was an interesting game to highlight here, because what an international matchup this could be, Bruce.
Well, it's interesting to note that, how we talk about how playing games in Denver, you're playing in the altitude, Mile High City, elevation, 5,280 feet. Mm-hmm. Mexico City's elevation is 2,000 feet higher. So playing in the altitude in Mexico City is going to be like playing in Denver on steroids when it comes to the conditioning and the lack of oxygen that guys are going to be able to take in. So I would say that, the team that's used to running and playing fast will probably have an advantage in that game. And it seems to me that, that would be the Pistons. They seem to be a little bit more of a running team than the Mavs. But it's going to be really entertaining because the Pistons are a rugged team. They're going to do what they can physically to try and slow Cooper Flag down. And we were talking before we started rolling on this show how he and Cade Cunningham could be a real nice, game within the game matchup as those guys are checking each other. So, The Pistons are a better rebounding team than the Mavs. They like the faster pace, as we said. So I think I would probably take Detroit in that game. But, if Cooper Flag is going to keep doing what he's been doing in his first 3 games, watch out. I mean, Ross, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I'd take the Pistons here as well. I like Cade Cunningham in the younger Detroit Pistons team in an international game where I feel like there's, of course, no home court advantage. You mentioned the altitude already, which I had written down as well. But I also even like the young Jalen Duren here, kind of really testing Anthony Davis on this road trip as well, because as you said, the altitude could get to AD. Duren's a little younger. He's got fresher legs. He can run up and down the court and kind of exhaust him. But I think that Cade Cunningham versus Cooper Flag matchup is one worth watching and one that the Mexico City fans are really going to be looking forward to, seeing those two battle mano a mano in Mexico City, because that could be a lot of fun, not just offensively for both teams, but I really want to see what Cooper Flag can do defensively guarding Cade Cunningham, which is going to be a tough task for him and a really good challenge for him early on in his NBA career. So this one should be a really good one. I think this will be a tight one till the end, but I give the edge to the younger Detroit Pistons. Now, finalizing things up here on Sunday, we've got the Atlanta Hawks at the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I know it's super early, Bruce, but let's just face it. So far, the Atlanta Hawks are not living up to their preseason hype. So, Bruce, they'll have a great opportunity to change that narrative on Sunday night against one of the best teams out east. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, on Monday night, the Hawks lost their 3rd game of the year.
Jeez.
They're 1-3, this time to the Bulls, aforementioned. Look, Trae Young, his shooting woes have not gotten better since last season. In fact, they've gotten worse. His assist numbers have also been down. As Trae Young goes, a lot of times that's how Atlanta goes. Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, has started well, but, the Cavs were the best shooting team in the league last season. They're barely in the top 10, again, small sample earlier in the year. I understand that. But Porzingis has already missed multiple games for them. And just like every other year he's played, his health is always suspect. Cleveland's expected to challenge for a spot in the NBA Finals, and Atlanta's just hoping to reach the top 4 and have home court in the first round of the playoffs. But Cleveland looks to be closer to their goal than the Hawks are with, 3 losses in their first 4 games.
Yeah, they certainly are. And I'm looking forward to seeing if this could potentially be a revenge game for DeAndre Hunter, who's now the starting small forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers, traded at the deadline last year to Cleveland from Atlanta. So that one should be a fun one to see how he comes out of the gates against his former squad, one that he's super familiar with, and who they even, maybe match him up with defensively. I mean, do we see Dyson Daniels taking his turn on DeAndre Hunter since he knows him so well, or are they just going to stick him on Spida the whole game, Donovan Mitchell, and try to eliminate his scoring opportunities? But should be a fun one. You look down low in the front court too. A lot of athleticism. Jalen Johnson, Evan Mobley going at it. Hopefully Kristaps Porzingis is playing in this one, because I'd like to see him go up against Jared Allen on the Cavaliers. That'd be a fun one to see KP try to stretch Jared Allen away from the basket on the defensive end of the floor, which should open up some lanes for a guy like Trae Young to either score more efficiently around the basket since he's struggling with his shot, Bruce, or give him a nice outlet to have the defense have to crash in on him, and he can find the open shooter and add to his assist total. Because, of course, when Trae Young's not shooting the ball well, he's still putting up some major dime numbers.
We talked about this last week, that so often how a team, starts out can set the tone for their season. Yeah. Sometimes, like with San Antonio, maybe they're setting a really high tone. Maybe the Bulls are doing the same thing. Maybe Atlanta's doing that in the opposite direction. They need to stop this bleeding soon, because they don't have a history of great success in recent years. They've been okay, but they were expected to really kind of go into that upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. But if they don't kind of pull themselves out of this really soon, they may not do it at all. And I think, because again, you develop habits, you set the tone, negative or positive. And you mentioned the NBA Cup is starting this weekend. Can I take a moment to share some thoughts on the NBA Cup?
Please.
I'm sorry. it is not feeling like anything special to me. I may be in the minority, but regular season games that are co-branded as some sort of tournament matchup just leave me cold. I mean, the whole idea of an in-season tournament never resonated with me. If it's really a tournament, set aside 2 weeks and stop your regular season games, set up your brackets, play it out separately from games that count in the standings. Because otherwise, it just seems forced. Like the league felt it needed to do something to create buzz early in the season when some casual fans weren't really paying attention. And I don't really care who wins this so-called tournament. I care much more about who wins the regular season games that are being sold as tournament games.
Yeah.
Rant off.
It's hard for me to disagree with that. The one thing I'll definitely agree with you that's got me scratching my head is, why is it starting so early? I mean, we are literally a week into the season. Teams haven't even played 5 or 6 games yet, and we're having our first tournament game. I mean, what is that about? I feel like it's way too early. No one's even like adjusted or accustomed to all their play calls yet. I mean, guys are still learning their set. They're still learning some of their new teammates. I mean, we're starting a tournament. I mean, tournaments are supposed to be at the end of the season, like you mentioned. You know, it's like you don't start it at the start of the season. Then March Madness doesn't start, you know, at the beginning of the college basketball year. So I don't know why this tournament's starting so soon, but I do care.
Yeah, it just seems so contrived to me. It seems like just a kind of a blatant, like, hey, we know a bunch of you people aren't really paying attention yet, so we're going to pretend to do a little tournament, except all the games are regular season games and count in the standings. So it really isn't. I'm sorry. I love the NBA as much as anyone can love any league in any sport, but the NBA Cup is a big nothing burger in my mind.
Yeah. And one last fun fact on the NBA Cup while we're on that topic, Bruce. This is the last year that the championship game will be played in Las Vegas. Next year, they're getting rid of that, and it's going to be played at one of the NBA team arenas, whoever's still in the actual tournament. So I guess we should enjoy at least the Vegas aspect of it while it lasts, because this is the final year of the NBA Cup as we knew it.
Just keep the players away from the poker tables and the casinos. That's all I got to say.
Amen to that. All right. And to wrap things up here before the weekend, Bruce, what's one way too early overreaction you have so far this season to a team, player, or trend? You can pick.
Well, I was disappointed to see Houston start out 0-2. They did pick up their first win on Monday night against the Nets. But, you know, they don't look like they're really in sync just yet. Now, I think they'll eventually figure it out, but their sins can be corrected. They were third worst in assists per game. Their field goal percentage as a team is 30th out of 30 teams, which, you know, is bad. So if you pull Şengün out of that, they'd be probably 31st out of 30 teams, if that was even possible. They're in the bottom third in the league in attempts. Their defense and rebounding are solid, so they'll work the other stuff out, I'm pretty certain. But I think what we're seeing is like Fred VanVleet's absence, you know, that kind of explains a lot of their three-point shooting woes. So, you know, second-year guy Reed Shepherd, who we were all kind of hoping would do good things as a rookie, is, you know, he needs to keep shooting. He's hitting 45% of his threes, at least in the early going. So, you know, keep shooting it, Reed, you know, and I think eventually Houston will figure it out. But, you know, they're now on the board. They're off the schneid. They're 1-2 as of Monday night.
Yeah. And I think some of the slow start has to be due to the fact that the Fred VanVleet injury was such a curveball for them. You know, that was the guy that they were planning on having being the floor general all season long. He goes down kind of later in the preseason, you know, and then having to figure out, is it Reed Shepherd? Are we moving Amen Thompson to the point guard? You know, how much do we trust Reed? Do we go out and maybe try to make a trade for another point guard? I still think eventually, before the season's done or the deadline comes, they're going to make a trade. I just see it going that way because I think they will struggle a little bit more than maybe we all anticipated. Certainly more than the Rockets thought they'd, you know, be struggling. So keep an eye on that. But I think the Fred VanVleet news and kind of the timing behind losing him for the season is playing a part in why they're off to such a slow start. But I think they're going to figure it out with time, just given the depth and talent that Ime Udoka has to work with. Now, for my one way too early overreaction, I'm going to have some fun here. I picked a player. And for this one, I'm going to go with the Dairy Bird, a.k.a. the sharpshooting guard, A.J. Green of the Milwaukee Bucks. He's currently making just over 3 triples a game on nearly 59% shooting from downtown. And I don't really see him slowing down anytime soon. I'm looking at the shots he's getting. He's getting some wide open looks. Giannis has been obviously dominating the offensive side of the floor. The defense is collapsing on Giannis. They're doing a great job finding A.J. Green on the rotation of the basketball. I think he's in for a big year. In fact, I think he's going to continue to open up so many eyes around the league just playing around Giannis that he's going to be this lethal for the first half of the year that he's going to get invited to the three-point shooting tournament.
Wow.
And so much like Larry Bird competed in it and won his first of 3 three-pointing shooting contests during All-Star Weekend in 1986. And I think that Dairy Bird's going to follow up in Larry Legend's footsteps this year and, further create a more Dairy Legend in Milwaukee. So we go from Larry Legend to Dairy Legend. I think that's what's going to happen this year. And it's all going to happen with the three-point shooting contest this February. I think A.J. Green's going to be a part of it. And I'll even go on a limb and get really crazy or say he wins the actual three-point shooting contest. So I'm hoping that can come to fruition.
Wow. That would be Tim Legler-like in its
it really would.
significance.
Yeah. No, that's a great analogy there. Great comp there. And I could, definitely see that happening for A.J. Green. And it couldn't have happened to a better guy because I know he's a hard worker and a good person around the Bucks organization. So with that, that's what we're looking forward to this weekend. And one overreaction to keep an eye out on from Bruce and I. And that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Happy Halloween and have a safe weekend.